Hey guys, it's Jason again. Today I wanted to talk to you about the purchase I made recently of a virtual racing school VRS Direct Force Pro wheelbase. So here it is right here. Actually, this is the Thrustmaster rim, which I'll show you in a minute, but the wheelbase is back there, I promise. So I don't want to do a full review or anything because there's plenty of reviews out on these already, but I guess a little bit more specifically and just some anecdotal personal experience with using this wheelbase with Richard Burns Rally. There's not a lot of information out there about this wheelbase in Richard Burns Rally, or really even direct drive wheels in general in Richard Burns Rally. I know there are several in the community that have them and use them with with RBR, but not really seen any who use this wheelbase too much with RBR. So again, there's not going to be a lot of information in this video. It's just a bit of my experience so far with it. And so let's jump in. I'm going to show you some just panning shots of the wheelbase, how it's mounted to the rig, and a little bit about some of the accessories that I've got with it. Okay, what you're seeing here is my track racer rig with the MIJ motor from VRS attached to it. So it's you need to probably attach this to a rig, and that's what I've done here. You can also see that I've got the Thrustmaster Sparco wheel rim attached to it. So there are conversion kits to take certain wheels from Thrustmaster to USB, and with this type of motor you can run any USB wheel rim, so it's open for a lot of options that way. I've got a quick release from Sim Racing Coach on the back that attaches to the shaft of the motor, so that makes it easy to get on and off. And additionally, I've got a spacer in there just from Amazon, which just puts it in a little bit better position for me. There you can see the USB cable running down underneath. Alright, here's the back side of my rig, so you can see the motor mounts again there. And it's pretty short. It's not a very big motor, but it is very heavy. You can get a mount with your motor when you purchase it from VRS, which can be mounted to really a desk or anything. It ends up being a flat mount. But this one from Track Racer I think is quite solid. You can see the heavily shrouded cables that attach to the motor as well, and those are industrial level cables that come out and run to the box down that I have down on the side of my rig. So there's the power switch on the box and the cables going in, and then just a power cable runs out from there and a USB to your PC.
Three, two, one, go, 70.
Okay, so in the background you're seeing the Hyundai 2020 WRC car around a French tarmac stage. Let me talk a bit about the force feedback. I came from the Thrustmaster T300 wheelbase, which I enjoyed and used for almost 3 years. It's a simple belt drive wheelbase with a peak output of somewhere around 3 Newton meters. The VRS has a holding torque capability of 20 Newton meters, substantially more strength. However, I didn't know or totally understand what that meant. And because I am mostly a rally racer on loose surfaces, I wasn't sure if I needed a wheelbase with this much strength. What I determined and have learned is that the capability of a strong direct drive wheel is not only in its peak and or holding level torques, but also in the capability to range so widely in the output. By that I mean it can represent all these small forces that you feel on the road surface and with the suspension and tires, as well as the heavier forces. So you have a much larger dynamic range. The result of this is not only more capability in controlling the car, but a better feel for the car and how it's meeting the road. The one thing as sim racers that we miss is the seat of the pants. And a direct drive wheelbase really does fill that gap like nothing else. Coming from a commercial, cheaper, mid-range wheelbase to something of this level was a substantial step up. Overall, I've been blown away by the increase in fidelity, feel, and capability to control the car with this direct drive base. I can't really overstate how better it is in your hands driving with something like this versus what a T300 can offer. Now, this is all subjective, and I don't believe that a wheelbase is the best upgrade for your sim racing necessarily. For example, a good load cell brake is going to offer legitimate speed and pace increases over cheap potentiometer brake. A direct drive wheelbase doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a world record setter or even be that much faster. But I have noticed immediately a better capability to control the car and to extract the most out of it. So with that, let's head over and I'll show you my settings.
Flat left, flat right, tight ends. And square left.
Okay, so to wrap the video up, I just wanted to discuss the config tool, as you can see here on the screen, and kind of what I found worked for me. I'm not going to go through all the details of what these are. They're pretty straightforward, and again, there's lots of other information out there about that. The smoothing is effectively like Simucube's interpolation filter, which helps with sims that have a lower frequency of force feedback, like iRacing, which runs at 60 Hertz. Not really sure, honestly, what frequency RBR runs at, but I found that smoothing at 0, there's a bit of grain in the wheel, so there's almost just like a subtle twitching going on with the wheel with no smoothing at all. Again, this is completely subjective. You get a lot of road feel with it. That's one of the great things with the VRS, but I just found it to be a little bit better at 1. Damping, of course, is just an overall damping effect on the force feedback itself and the forces coming through. With rally racing, you're on a lot of different, several different surface types. I like to be able to feel all those individual forces, and so to me, damping at 0 feels good. Friction, inertia, and spring. Friction is just some resistance in the wheel. Inertia is just a weight to the wheel, and spring is kind of a return. All these I think are typically set to 0 in most sims, and I think it follows that it works here. You can see I only have the max force set at 46%, which is close to 9 Newton meters peak. But again, because of the dynamic range capability of this wheelbase, and giving that it can hold 9 Newton meters at this rate, you still have so much feel of the lower forces. And again, this is adjustable to your liking and to how you have other things set. One of the cool things about a higher end wheel that gives you a config tool like this is that you can save different profiles. And so one of the things with RBR is front wheel drive to rear wheel drive to four wheel drive all have different force feedback strengths coming through. And so being able to set a profile with different force levels is quite handy to do. And so for instance, like on a front wheel drive car, I'm running 60% because the forces in general are much less coming through. So I really like that fact, and of course you can tweak these and save these profiles for for each vehicle if you want, or for each type of vehicle. Last thing, over here on the back to the launcher, I've talked about before, but you can see where I have my settings much higher than an average commercial level wheel, And so this again kind of adds to the granularity capability, the dynamic capability of the forces coming through. So this shows you how powerful this wheelbase is to be able to run these types of values and still only run the wheel at less than 50% strength. All right, so that wraps it up. That's my initial take on this wheelbase, specifically for Richard Burns. I mean, every sim that I've tried it in, it's phenomenal. Again, this is an expensive item. This is certainly not needed. Obviously, there's other things that are probably a better value for your money in the sense of how it will affect your sim racing. But this thing's awesome. I love it. I wouldn't want to go back. So, I wouldn't write it off. Someone who's, mostly doing Richard Burns, I wouldn't write it off as a good choice, and it's a bit cheaper than some of the other direct drive options. And again, it's got a 3-year warranty. It's an industrial motor that's used everywhere, so I think it's well tested, and I think it's going to be around for a while. So I'm planning on keeping this wheel base for at least like a decade. I mean, I have no reasons to change ever. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. If you did, hope it was somewhat informative, or maybe you got to watch my bad driving at least. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Happy rallying, and God bless.